I was a schoolboy, I lived at home at ease, but now I am a trawling lad who ploughs the raging seas. I thought I'd like seafaring life, but very soon I found it was not all plain sailing when we got to the fishing grounds. It was heave away, grind away, heave away the trawl. Now when we get those fish on board, we'll have another haul. Oh, heave away, grind away, heave away the trawl. That's the cry in the middle of the night, Busky Hall, boys, haul. Now my boys, on a wintry night, as regular as a clock, we don long boots, sou'westers, likewise an oilskin frock, and straightway to the capstan we merrily heave away. It's just the same in the middle of the night as it is in the middle of the day. It's heave away, grind away, heave away the trawl. Now when we get the fish on board, we'll have another haul. Oh, heave away, grind away, heave away the trawl. That's the cry in the middle of the night, Busky Hall, boys, haul. Now my boys, the fish on board, we have them all to gut. We pang them in our boxes and to the steamboat put. We stack them in her fish hold, all tight with ice as well, and there they lay all fresh all day like an oyster in a shell. It's heave away, grind away, heave away the trawl. When we get the fish on board, we'll have another haul. Oh, heave away, grind away, heave away the trawl. That's the cry in the middle of the night, Busky Hall, boys, haul. Now that's what I used to hear Dinks Cooper sing in the Harbour Inn when I first started drinking. Well, I never started drinking when I was young, you know. I was in my mid-20s before I started having a pint or two. I think I made up for it since. But, you know, in Southwold, I was born in Southwold as a kid during the war. And they closed the school after Dunkirk and evacuated everybody. They all went to Worksop, or Warsop rather. I had an aunt in Potter's Bar, so I went there. My mother and myself and Dad were stationed at Dover, you see. And that weren't really the most inspired choice of a place to go, because when the Blitzer started, we came home again. In fact, the first bomb in Potter's Bar was about 50 yards from the bottom of our garden. And we were in the Anderson shelter at the time. So anyway, when we came home, wonderful, no school. God, lovely, suited me a treat. And of course, on South Green, the hallowed turf of South Green, was an assault course. What kid want an adventure playground when there's an assault course round the corner? There's a big swing at the bottom. We spent ages on that, all doing our blood-curdling Tarzan yodels and this sort of nonsense. And on the common there's blockhouses and trenches when they didn't all cave in and suffocate us all. But we got away with it. And the Black Whites were here as well. They had two bands, one down the seafront, one on the common, and they'd on a Wednesday, so at 6 o'clock, they'd march up the marketplace and get together and get a real old do which us kids loved. We thought it was wonderful. And of course there was plane crashes as well. I think we probably knew more about the average flares and the sort of thing most armourers did, because we did all sorts of things with them. Bullets, take them to pieces, get caught out, see if we could start fires here, there and everywhere. But one of my mates, his grandfather gave him a glass out of an old bicycle lamp, an old acetylene lamp, and it was a powerful glass. And because we used to start fires with them, one morning we were waiting for the school bus, and we were egging this lad on, saying about would it burn through the shop windows, through the glass in the shop windows. No, that wouldn't. Oh yes, it would. No, it wouldn't. Well, Brian shone the thing down on Tyler Denny's blinds, and suddenly there was a little flame and some smoke suddenly started going up the blinds. So there was a group of little boys sitting on the bus in no time at all, and butt went melted in our mouths. Well, after that, all went all right. Till nearly playtime, along came Mr. Garrett, one of the masters. All the boys on the Southwold bus out in the corridor. He lined us all up. He said, right, who's the boy with the burning glass? And nobody owned up. Right, that's a cane for the lot of you. So he took my old mate Peely. He said, you're the oldest one, Palmer. You tell me who was the culprit. Otherwise that's a cane for you as well. So Peely didn't tell him. He walked up in front of the lad who did it and said, well, I think the culprit better own up, don't you? And so Brian did own up. And for that he got 12 strokes of the cane, which is quite a lot for a 9-year-old. And he never burnt any holes any more blind, I can tell you. But then, because when I got a bit older, I left school. I left school at 14. I became a painter and decorator's apprentice. And I hated every minute of it. But I used to work with some chaps who were my father's age and older. And they used to tell me stories when they were young chaps. And things that happened on the beach with the fishing people. Things that happened in the building trade, some of them, some silly yarns, you know. One old boy, old Billy Welton, he was 74, still going strong. And he spit on his hands and said, come on boy, we can get a coat on the sail before we lock off, can't we? We're leaving off at 5:30 and this was 5:05. And yeah, we did. But Billy spit in his hands, grabbed the old breast and away he'd go and sing at the top of his voice. One of his songs, I don't know if I got the words right or not, but as we parted on the shore and the crew began to roar, time to say goodbye, my lad, we're off for Baltimore. I kissed her on the shore and the crew began to roar, Helio, Helio, we're off for Baltimore. Now, I don't know if that was Helio or Here We Go, but whichever it was, Billy always used to sing that one. And I used to hear Scrivener Waters sing that as well sometimes when I was working with him. But I know one time, poor old Billy came to me and said, boy, I thought I told you to get a coat on that pantry in there. So I said, well I did, Mr. Welton. So I know you did, boy. He said, well I didn't tell you to do the heap of coal what stand outside as well, did I? And eventually he got desperate with me. He said, boy, if you want to go to sea, clear off, he said, because ain't no use me trying to teach you to be a painter. So with that, there was a little crisis. I let it be known that I didn't want to be a painter, I wanted to go to sea. And Dad and myself didn't see eye over that one. Do you think I'd be here messing about ashore if there was anything to be had at sea, boy? So we agreed that I would stay as a painter. And after I'd been done my national service, I would have saved up enough to bought a boat, and perhaps we could buy 2 boats and he could go fishing as well. Well, I was called up and went in the Air Force. So I volunteered for overseas service and finished up in West Lanham. So I thought to myself, well, I even tried to swap a Poussin for Rhodesia, but they wouldn't have it. So I thought, well, this is good. It's Norfolk is far, isn't it? And we used to come on most weekends around the Great Norfolk line that don't exist now, thanks to Dr. Beecham. All the way around Melton, Constable, Fulsham, that way. Turned up to Scrapby and Hemsby, Yarmouth Beach. Now I think there were 27 stops between where we used to get on the train and Lowestoft. It used to take ages. But we used to get on that way. Then, of course, I got known on the camp, so I got on the coach to Norwich. So we got a bit quicker that way. Then I could get on time to play football on Saturday afternoon. But yeah, then I got back in the building trade after I came in. Because the flood, the 53 flood had happened. That happened the weekend before I was demobbed, actually. And I'd been to pictures. Somebody come in a picture, they'd come on, there's some trouble here, there's some lights are down, snapped down on the pier. And there's beach huts are floating about. So I lived up next to an house up near the cliff then. So I ran up the street, ran on the cliff. I looked at it and I saw swells coming in, and they were tops, the white tops seemed to be almost level with the tops of the cliff. And so I went home, took my decent gear off, put some old clothes on, and my thigh boots, went down to the gun hill where we had a shed. Well, that shed was then a heap of matchwood. So coming back, I met Mum and Dad, and Dad said, "Come on, boy, let's see if we can give him a hand down here." So we went down, and there was a policeman there. He said, "There was an old boy in the first bungalow on the right." He said, "We want to get him out." Spud James, the milkman, was there as well. He said, "Well, I deliver milk here every day, and there's a high path through that garden." He said, "I know where that is, follow me." So we did. And we got up to our waist in water and went up bleaking cold, perishing. And then of course Spud missed the path, and we were all up to our armpits in water. That was even colder. But however, the policeman got the old boy out. So I went home, took all my clothes off, put some dry clothes on, went back on the gun hill. I said to somebody, "Where's my dad anyway?" So, "Oh yes, he's out there," and there were some cars parked on the gun hill, shining the headlamps out on the marshes. And on the marshes was a roof. And there was a family of Americans sitting on this roof floating about. And there was my dad and a speedy chap in a little boat, trying to get them off. Well, my dad grabbed hold of a Dusso Winter and it came away in his hand. So, and he lost an oar, so they got pulled back. Then our Captain Stannard and Bob's Mayu, they in a bit bigger boat actually, they went and they got the people off. Did a good job. But I'd already bought a boat by then, a motorboat, but I lost that night. That just got smashed up somewhere. I never saw any more of it. I think we lost 9 boats that night, and 5 people were drowned in Southwold. Following morning, I got up, I went back to Gun Hill, about 7:30, I think it was not 4 o'clock before I went to bed, mind you. About 7:30, and they were then carrying a lady's body up the beach on a door. And that night, I got back to camp. I don't know how, because Southwold was an island, but there must have been low water, and I got an old double-decker bus, and good old gardeners ploughed along, went through everything, you know. Got to Lowstone, because the railway line was up at Reading and Summerlayton, so they laid on some buses for us to Norwich, and the Norwich buses waited for us to go the other way. I come home the following Friday as a civvy, along the Great North Norfolk line, and I saw some of the damage that other places had had. And yeah, I went back in the painting trade. I didn't like it, but until I found another boat, and we wanted 2 boats then, so Dad could go as well. By that time, Dad was driving a tractor for the corporation. After the flood for a few days, he ran that was an old petrol paraffin Fergie, and he ran a ferry service from Reading to Southwold at high tide. But then of course I started going and having a pint with Dad in the Harbour Inn. That's where I started hearing people singing songs. Dinks, who was a fisherman, Dinks Cooper, he used to sing Busky All the Trawl. And then there was old Jarvo. Well, he had several nicknames. Willie Jarvis, but he was Frozen Will was one name, Salty Sam was another, Pine Oil was another. Where they all come from I don't know, but those are the names he had. And he used to sing The Captain Told the Mate. Our captain, he knows a lot of fine yarns, I know they must be true. He spins his yarns unto his mate while out on the ocean blue. I'll tell you a tale about a man, a builder he was by trade, who built a chimney 5 miles high and all of the bricks he made. Along came another who said, I think I can do better than that. I'll mix all the mortar and make all the bricks as sure as my name is Pat. He built it up so high, it reached beyond the sky. They had to take a brick or two off to let the moon go by. Oh, the captain told the mate he told the crew told me, so I know it must be true. You hear some funny yarns when you're sailing on a trip, and that's a little yarn I heard aboard of a ship, and so on. And several more verses. I'll sing them to you as I go along. And another one, now Tinny Townsend used to play the piano. Well, he couldn't play piano for toffee, really, but he could knock enough chords out for a sing-song, which is all he wanted. And I then got a second boat. I bought one at Harbour at an auction. And I put a brand new engine in it, a lovely engine. And I wish I'd never seen the engine I put in it. But that's luck, that's how it goes. Then of course there was one or two bigger boats started coming to Southwold, sort of about 40 footers and this sort of thing. And everybody started looking bigger. Well, I didn't. And eventually, I'd been in the painting trade now till I was 40, and I had a row with my foreman, and he gave me the sack. Well, I needn't have left if I hadn't wanted to. So I thought, well, now's the time to change. So I went fishing, and I didn't do very well at that either. I think I spent too much time testing the weight of a pint pot than I did the weight of fishing a net. But when the caravan site came up, a friend of mine took it on, and I went to help as his assistant. And between us, I thought if I didn't complete the education, nothing will. Going round the tents in the morning. But we did all right. Then he decided to go elsewhere. So I applied for the job and got it. And then I did it 1 year, and it was a wonderful year, 1976, when that lovely hot summer. I broke all records for takings on the site. The only year they'd never had one solitary complaint. And wonderful. Well then, the following year, I had a different assistant, a good chap, and then I was offered the job of harbour master to go with it. So I was caravan site warden and harbour master, which I did because my dad was AC before. And when I was in the Air Force, my dad became caravan site warden and harbour master as well as working for the corporation. But anyway, I took that on, and one or two odd things happened. A crowd of Dutchmen came in on a boat. I better start this at the beginning. Freddie Eade from Warwick and Dr. Doyle from Southwold, fisherman, was steaming up and down outside the harbour waiting for enough water to get in. And in came a Dutch boat, straight in, tied up alongside some fishing boats, load of blokes on board, and they didn't know what they were doing. No idea what they were doing. So I went down and I said, well, we should charts, maps. We got a map. So they produced a chart of the Thames estuary. They said, we go to Ramsgate. We leave High Mountain and we stay due north and we come to this place. We want to go to Ramsgate. So I said, you left High Mountain and stayed due north? Yeah. I said, if you want to go to Ramsgate, I said, you probably left below and stood due north, didn't you? No, we leave High Mountain. Oh yeah. So they hadn't got a chart for this area, so I turned the chart over and I drew the circle around for East Anglia and the Thames, and I showed them where London was and where they were. This place, they knew this place was not Ramsgate because Ramsgate is a big place and this is a small place. And anyhow, they made them, someone there, there's Lowestoft and then there's Yarmouth. Oh, Yarmouth, we go to Yarmouth. So we go out there and turn left out the piers. Yeah, we go to Yarmouth. They cast off, and while they went out, turned to the north, and away they went up to the Yarmouth. There was Freddie Eade and Dr. Doyle still steaming up and down outside, waiting for enough water to get in, and they knew the harbour. But I rang the customs after that, and I said to the chap who I knew actually, I said, "You'll never believe the story I'm going to tell you, Ian." He said, "When you've done this job as long as I have, John, you'll believe anything. What you got to tell us?" So I told him. That's all. He said, "How come I lost everyone? We'll be waiting for him." But yeah, the second verse, I reckon we'll have a go at now, shall we? Which one is it? I'm trying to think of the order they're in there, see? Our captain, when he went to fishing once, he caught a giant fish. It was so large, or twice as large as anyone could wish. But when he got it to the shore, he received a shock of law. It was so large, the river swelled some 20 miles or more. Our captain says he begs to state the crew, also the mate. He's clean forgot the name of the fish, but he used a whale for bait. Oh, the captain told the mate. The mate, he told the crew. The crew told me, so I know it must be true. You hear some funny yarns when you're sailing on a trip, and that's a little yarn I heard aboard of a ship. Now a captain once was in New York. He saw a clever cove. In the bar upon the floor there stood a red-hot stove. Now just to show what he could do, he lifted up his fist. He hit the stove and dented it, 'cause he was a pugilist. And as he went out, another came in, no told him what had been done. He said to them all, "I'm better than him, and I'll show you a trick for fun." He proved himself immense. Excitement grew intense. He proved himself immense. He climbed inside the red-hot stove and he threw out all the tents. Now, old Java, when he was singing this one note, when he hit the stove and dented it, there was no tortoise stove in the bottom bar of the harbour in them days. He thumped his fist on the top of the tortoise stove, and as he hit it, his false teeth flew out on the floor. So he made no what, he just picked them up, chucked them back in his mouth and never missed a word, I don't think. But old Javo was telling us once, I was talking to my father and myself when we first started off with fishing. He said, "Now you go along in it, if you go and down this boat, you go in 5 fathoms there," he said, "you'll get on the hard ground." He said, "Now when you go off the hard, you come to the soft." I mean, as if we didn't know that, but he's what he was telling us. But yes. Anyhow, the captain told the mate, he told the crew. The crew told me, so I know it must be true. You hear some funny yarns when you're sailing on a trip, and that's a little yarn I heard aboard of a ship. Now, our captain once he was shipwrecked upon a desert shore. The place was uninhabited, he'd never been there before. Our captain, as you all may know, he had a nerve of iron, when suddenly he came face to face with such a roaring lion. Oh, the beast of a lion, it made a spring, opened his mouth so wide, right down of his throat he shoved his fist, and it went right inside. It's true without a doubt. He gave a mighty shout. He grabbed the lion by the tail and turned it inside out. Oh, the captain told the mate. The mate, he told the crew. The crew told me, so I know it must be true. You hear some funny yarns when you're sailing on a trip, and that's a little yarn I heard aboard of a ship. You know, on the beach, some of these old boys, I used to get told these yarns by these fellows I worked with. Although they're in the building trade, they're all sort of fishing family chaps. And there was 1 or 2 people quite notorious. And a chap called Winter Smith. Now Winter was a great politician. He would argue with the stones on the beach if need be, you know. And some young chaps were down, they knew him when they were kids. They knew he would argue about politics. So they started an argument between themselves, one on the top of the cliff near the reading room. And then when she went on to say, "Well, what was your opinion of this, Mr. Smith?" "Well," he said, "we are as we are. It don't matter what you or me say, we won't never be any higher, so you can take it out of that." The same winter, a lady went on the beach and asked him, he said, "Is it going to rain today, Mr. Fisherman?" He said, "How the hell should I know? Why don't you write and ask your member of Parliament? They know every bloody thing." He also was the helmsman of the beach yawl, the Bittern. And they'd been to Castleton Regatta one day. And when they came back on the beach, they said, "Did you win, winner?" He said, "Well, I don't know. We see 'em when we started and we never seen 'em more on 'em, so I suppose we must have done." Which is actually typical of that family's way of saying anything. His nephew, Roger, I fished with Roger for a bit, but he said to me one day, he's looking at his own boat, he said, "Well, John Bull, I ain't got to say she's the best boat in the river, but I come down here every day and I ain't seen a better one yet." Another one of the weathermen's old Dodger Waters, a lady said, no, the man said to him, he said, "Is it going to rain today, Mr. Fisherman?" He said, "What do you think I'm, a bloody weather glass?" Then there's a famous saying in Southwold, cold weather, amongst Southwold people. This is how you'll tell real Southwold people. Among Southwold people, this is what the ladies say. The lady says, "Cold, father." Old Herbie Hearn, his father. The lady went on the beach, they were cutting fish, perishing of cold. And she said, "Isn't it cold, Mr. Fisherman?" They both as deaf as puss. "What the lady say, Harvey boy?" He said, "The lady say that's cold, father." "Cold?" He said, "Perishing of bloody cold." And nobody ever says whether the lady brought any fish or not, but that's the standard so far one. Winter, with two of his brothers, Little Foy and Mop. Now they were pushing the boat about on the beach. They pushed them about on the beach, they do them on woods with the metals nailed on, then they use grease on them and they grease the soling of the boat. But if they go off these skids or woods and get sand on the soling, they're a devil of a job to push in. And they were pushing this boat about once and come off one of the woods. Little Foy, with a bit of a squeaky for that, "Just what I thought." "Oh, what did you think?" "I thought that was going to happen." "Well, why didn't you say us what you thought?" He said, "Well, I thought I might have been wrong." "Thought you might have been wrong," and so on. And then there was two Stannards, Captain Steele and his brother. They used to call his brother Weight Picker for some reason or other, I don't know why. And they always have called each other Mr. Standard, apparently. Some of them used to play them up quite a bit, because just to hear them tick each other off. They never swore, but they really have a go at each other. And Rory Took one morning was down there early in the harbour, and when they always laid the thowel pins, which were what the pegs used to put inside the boat where the oars went, for the oars to go on in place of rowlocks, and they used to lay them in between the knees on the thwarts of the boat. Rory decided to use that little bit as a lavatory one morning, and still morning, bit foggy, and suddenly one voice piped up and said, "Mr. Standard, you dirty man!" "What's the matter with you, Mr. Standard? You pooped in the towels." "I did not," and so they had a row about that, didn't they? And the last verse, as the captain told the mate, is, "I'll tell you a tale about the goat that swallowed a cowboy's shirt. The shirt, it was a red one, and the cowboy, he was hurt. He swore for this he'd kill the goat, but swearing sometimes fails. But he took it to the railroad and tied it to the rails. Oh, poor little goat who wanted to live, had an idea so fine. The nightshirt gave him pain, so he coughed it up again. He waggled the nightshirt by the tail and quickly stopped the train. Oh, the captain told the mate he told the crew told me, so I know it must be true. You hear some funny yarns when you're sailing on a trip, and that's a little yarn I heard aboard of a ship. Yes, that's one of mine. I believe folk music was like jazz music. Some songs should tell a story, of what happened. Some should tell you about the way of life, and some are just for fun. And that is my attitude towards jazz music as well. I'm also involved with the church locally. I'm a deputy church warden. Been on the PCC a couple of times. I'm on the second term now. And on the Deanery Synod. Yeah, do you know, I was christened on the 4th of December 1932. I was confirmed on the 7th of July 1999. And as I've often said to our vicar, well, in the 1920s, a lady called Mae West recorded a tune called I Like a Guy What Takes His Time. I think that must be me. But, yeah, because there are one or two characters still in Southwold. I mean, people say, oh, all the characters are gone. Don't believe them. We have one who's retired now, but he was a winter cleaner. And he was working down near the post office, opposite Montague House. And of course George Orwell lived in Montague House. But there was several people going on one day, and I asked Roy if he knew where George Orwell lived. George Orwell, George Orwell, no, he said. Oh, George, yes, he said, he lived in Church Street. I know him. He lived in Church Street. I think that's number 12. So, away they went. Anyhow, Roy then went to the Lord Nelson for his liquid lunch, and then in was George from 12 Church Street there. He said, George, it's dead down people find you. What people? Well, he said, must have been a dozen on them looking for you. Well, he said, I don't know what they want me for. Well, he said, you're a funny old boy, you never told me your name was Orwell. What are you talking about? He said, you're George Orwell, aren't you? He don't be a bloody fool. He died years ago. Oh, he said, did he? Oh, I wish I could have known, he said, because I know the told all them people had to stop there looking for him, wouldn't they? And the same Roy, when had cow disease was about, he's lost his wife since, but him and his wife used to go down to Summerfields or down Lowestoft, Safeways or somewhere, and get loads of beef burgers. So they got all these beef burgers in the freezer, and somebody said to him, well, what about all this business that can be, come to humans and this sort of thing? Dude, load old squid, says Roy. Load old squid, he said. Take Rosie and me, he said, we eat beef burgers every day, he said, and we aren't mad, are we? Which was the understatement of the year. But then of course they could be transferred to humans. What you got to do with all your beef burgers? Throw them away? No, he said. Well, he said, we'll keep them, he said, till the scare is over, he said, then we'll eat them, they'll be safe then. So characters are not all dead. And George Orwell himself, apparently, I was shown by somebody who saw him where him and his mate were supposed to have buried a capsule. But I think since then, that particular bit of Southwold Common had been dug up for the blockhouses I told you about early on, and trenches. So if there was anything there that's gone now, I mean, you have to take half the gorse bushes on the common, on the windhill up to get that. My grandfather Winter, he used to make nets. Well, when I knew him, it was his living then, making nets, braid and trawl nets. And my father would never learn. And then I was taught by an old boy from Bungay how to make a trawl net. Then my friend Roger Smith, who I mentioned before, he helped me a bit. And then I got to grips with people, a chap from Aldeburgh told me how to make otter trawls. And eventually one day my dad said to me, will you teach me a braid, boy? I said, yeah. I said, well, look, why on earth didn't you learn when Grandad was alive, Well, he said, when I was a boy, I used to sleep on nets. He said, I didn't want to know. And we were a poor family. We lived up in Primrose Alley, which is a little cut between South Green and the seafront. In fact, they used to call it Shirton Alley, and they were rum lot up there. Our lot used to fish from the California ground. California was California, was the Cunhill really. There was also the Klondike, which is the north end of the town, at the pier. And then there was the Kilcockers, and that was where the toilets are in the middle of the cliff. In fact, the toilets were built where the Kilcock lookout used to be, for the Kilcock Beach Company. You know, these yaws, the Bitton and them, they had beach companies that owned them. All these old fishermen had so many shares in them. I don't think anybody ever kept a record, not here anyhow, which is a great shame, because they would be of interest, wouldn't they? And yeah, the Reliance, I think it was Reliance, was ours down at the California end, and then they had the Bitton down at the Kilcock, and also the John Bull was a big sort of more bluff work type yawl. She was at the Klondike, I think, in the latter part of the time. Yeah, we used to trawl in the summertime, trawling for soles and plaice and dabs and anything like that. You'd pick up the odd lobster or crab, and then autumn time you'd drift faring, which is a waller net, you know, drifting along for a mesh and get the gills in. And I mean, herring was a way of life in this part of the world, going back to when my father was a young man. They used to boat to Lowestoft, sign on a drifter, go to sea, they'd be at sea one night, come in, land, empty out, you know, land the fish, then they'd boat back to Southwold, and the next day they'd boat back to Lowestoft, back to sea again. I thought nothing about boating. They'd pick up chaps from Rentham and Kessel and on the way, so they'd all get down there together. And then later in the year, sort of around the Christmas time, we used to go sprat, drifting for sprats, and also lining for cod or skate. And I must say I liked herring, because it was, you did herring fishing in the autumn time, and then about once you had frosty mornings, once the sun got up, that'd be all right. And in the spring, so again, we had frosty mornings when the sun got up, that was all right. I didn't like spratting that because it was blinking cold. And trawling, well, that was the sort of thing where you towed this net along behind the boat. And when my dad used to say, oh, all the boats that he owned, he used to tell people he had a fleet of boats. He didn't, but that's what he told people and they believed him. He had a different ways, his boats. Instead of towing the net along, they pushed the net along. But there again, that was my dad. Yes. Because I've been a member of the Sailors' Reading Room for a lot of years. I passed on a committee, I think, just before I got on the council. 1972 I was on the council, and that was when we bought the reading room in 1972. We formed a trust and bought the room from the Baggots. The reading room itself was built in 1864 by a widow of a sea captain to keep the fishermen and mariners out of the pubs. So it's conveniently built next door to Nelson. And when she died, she left it to her nephew, Dr. Blackett. And when eventually his widow died, a seaman, somebody on the liner in the Indian Ocean, cabled and bought it. A chap named Alcock. Well, then when his widow died, that was up for sale, and we were going to buy it. And along came old Alf Baggett, and he said, "You don't want to buy it, worry about it, I bought it." So actually, evermore remain a reading room. And that was minuted, fortunately. Then, of course, when Alf died, his son was going to sell it. It was pointed out to him that his minute should evermore remain a reading room, stated by the man who bought it, his father. So he cut up a bit rough then, and eventually 2 local ladies put the money up for us to buy it, provided we formed a trust. So we're now the Reading Room Trust. No, I don't know when I became chairman. It must be 15 to 16 years ago. And I carried on right through until this year, early this year, when I dropped the chair. I thought it was time somebody else did it. And so I'm now the president instead, which means that I can meddle with anything I like and be responsible for nothing. Lovely place, lovely thing. But the reading room is, I mean, basically it's like a museum, and yet it's not a museum. I mean, we're associated to the Southwold Museums Association, that sort of thing, and but we're not strictly a museum, because I mean, there's a snooker room in the back, and every year we have a finals night where we have competitions of snooker, billiards, dominoes, crib, all that sort of thing, you know. So, and I think it's a local institution. It's worth keeping going. I believe there are 1 or 2 others around the coast. I think there's one or 2 in St Ives. I believe there's one at Bardwell on the Welsh coast, isn't there? Or Bardsey, one of those anyhow. But there is a very similar museum at Hastings, I'm told. I think this is the only one in this part of the world. Well, they used to play dominoes really fiercely, you know, in years gone by. And I was told this story when I was a young chap, that old Beefy Jarvis and little Dokes Stannard played, and Beefy won one night. And he stood up and he said, "They are, Mr. Stannard, how do you like them cooked?" And the next night, when that was Dokes' turn, he won. And he stood up on a chair and he said, "They are, Mr. Bloody Jarvis, how do you like them baked and cooked?" But first committee meeting I ever went to, suddenly up get Cornish Goldsmith, got his watch out, he said, "Come on here, Andy, it's 9 o'clock. Time me back it off." And I got up and walked out, and that was the end of the meeting. Mardle is a descriptive word, but I never went, when I was a boy, I didn't ever recollect hearing any of the chaps I worked with ever. We were sort of, supposedly in them days, Southwold was a town, but they were country fellas, but I never heard any of them use the word mardle. But again, I believe it's a Norfolk word myself. I mean, it's like squid. Well, Norfolk try to claim that, don't they? That's got to be ours, isn't it? I mean, that's a descriptive word, surely. And you know, another thing, Hansa for heron. And we got the Cairnsea Road. And I always used to think that should have been called the Hansey Road, but it isn't. The Cairnsea is a causeway down to a quay, apparently. That's why it's called the Cairnsea Road. Anyhow, some years ago, you know, I decided to stand for the council. That was in the days of the borough, when we ran everything. And the chairman of the Chamber of Trade at the time, they just had a wonderful week of sort of hijinks, celebrating the tercentenary of the Battle of Sole Bay. And that had all been led by John, who was the chairman of the Chamber of Trade. And I was kitted up to stand for the council. So I did. God, I think I got the biggest majority ever in the borough of Southwold. I don't know why, but I did. And he should have murdered me. I mean, what he'd led all this business in there, and everybody thoroughly enjoyed it, and he should have absolutely slaughtered me. I could never work out why, but I did, anyhow. And I've been there ever since. I don't know why. I've never done anything. One night up there, one the mayor was, before I was mayor, somebody stood up and demanded a recorded vote. That was Dickie Shaw. And he said, it's been recorded, 7 for and 6 against, and then moved on to the next item. Another time, somebody got up and pointed across to somebody and said, he can't vote, look, he's voting. He can't vote, he's a member. Whatever we were talking about, probably the golf club. And bloke sitting next to him said, well, I'm a member and I'm voting. The chap turned, got hold of his arm, pushed his hand, and said, no, you're not. And I think my first meeting, the mayor was George Cockrell, and he was telling us all about how he'd been to St Felix School and met the Queen Mother. And George was a great talker. When George started talking, there was no stopping him, you know. And he was saying how wonderful she was. I mean, she was almost human, according to George. And the clock in the chamber started to chime. And it carried on chiming. And George carried on talking. And that carried on chiming, and so on. And I looked round, I thought, well, I can't put up with this without laughing. And I looked and I said, everybody got their heads down on their arms. I gathered they were all sort of put their heads down and have a good snigger as well. And George still carried on talking, and the clock still carried on chiming, till the town clerk got went and stopped it. Yeah. Then, of course, we used to get folk singing. Some people called it. We didn't call it folk singing, we just called it singing. A crowd of lads used to come over from Albury. We'd do things like down the harbour and that sort of thing, you know. And then I got to put 1 or 2 things together for myself. And I did one of all the local boats of the time. Most of them are gone now. A is for the Alpha, whose skipper is Mike, and B is a Billy Boy, that's Daughter's Delight. C is a Concord, she was a lifeboat, you can see. D's David and Hazel, was built by Weary, and so on. I got right through to that X, Y and Z. And another one I put together was all about the wreck of the Idun. Now the Idun was a bark, a 3-masted bark, from Christiansand that came ashore here in 1912. And eventually was broken up on the beach at Southwold. And she's quite a big boat. And at the same day, the main lifeboat, the Alfred Corrie, she was launched to go up to Southwold Bank to a schooner, a Dutch schooner called the Voorwoords. And then this bark came ashore on what they used to call them a splash point. That's just south of the pier. And they then got the little boat to rescue, and they pulled it right up through the town, through Pinkney's Lane and down the seafront, so they could get the north side of the thing, get a bit of leaf in the pier to launch it, and also come down on the thing with the wind and tide instead of trying to go against it. And I thought, well, I did put a little thing together about that. 'Twas January 1912, the 17th day, when 2 loud bangs rung out from the skies so dark and grey. They launched the Alfred Corrie on the coxswain brave Sam May, to go to the aid of Voorwoords fast aground in Southwold Bay. To go to the aid of the Voorwoords fast aground in Southwold Bay. Now as they raced to Minster, away across Danny's Bight, the watchers on the cliff they saw a bark come into sight. She sailed on and on unto the shore under Southwold town, and the word was quickly spread that the Idun's gone aground. And the word was quickly spread that the Idun's gone aground. Now once more to the lifeboat sheds those patched-our salmon ran, to launch the little boat to rescue they hit upon a plan. They hauled her right up to through the town, the Idun to get near, and launched her into the stormy seas on the lee of the old Bell Pier. And launched her into the stormy seas on the lee of the old Bell Pier. Now pull and pull with all their might, no matter how they tried, they swept clean past the Eye, such was the wind and tide. But then the coastguards did arrive with breeches, buoy and whips, and soon they had a rocket line across that stricken ship. And soon they had a rocket line across that stricken ship. Now as the crew were hauled ashore, so glad to be saved, there was a poor unfortunate fell out into the waves. But Coastguard Jillings, shew no fear, his action proves depraved. He dived and pulled this man ashore, safe from a watery grave. He dived and pulled this man ashore, safe from a watery grave. Now, meanwhile, at the Vorvorts, the Corey's job was done. She'd taken off the people there, yes, saved them every one. But she got so close to the shore, they couldn't change their tack. So brave Sam sailed her out through the broken seas with a foresail laid aback. Oh, Sam sailed her out through the broken seas with a foresail laid aback. Now raise your glasses and drink a toast to all who helped that day. Here's to Coastguard Jillings, and here's to brave Sam May, and here is to the crew of the little boat Rescue, and here's to all the chaps that make up Southwold's Coastguard crew. Now that one, you see, that when I said he had to sail out the south with the foresail laid aback, was a dipping lug, which longshore boats and the yawls and the lifeboats on this coast all had. You had to lower the sail and bring it up the other side of the mast every time you come about if you were tacking. Well, if you're in broken water, you can't do that. You had to tow what they call under a back sail. That's when the mast is behind the sail. It's very difficult to manoeuvre a boat then. And the patched house saltman, we're all patched house saltmen. And what they used to do when they bought a new pair of duffels, they used to get their wives to stitch a patch on the backside of their trousers. So when they were sitting on the thwarts rail in a boat, they wore a hole in the patch, not the trousers. Like the old Coleman, you know, with his leather patch on his shoulder. And at the Vorvorts, the Dutch schooner, they took all the people off, and the captain's wife was on it, and also there was a dog on board. They kind of took that off as well. Another one I put together was really based on the old song of Tin Roof Blues, which of course is another of my things as jazz music. But there's something like it. I bought myself a house way down in Southwold town. I thought in my old age that I would settle down. I did a few little jobs improving my property, but then this planning officer he came and he said to me, this is a conservation area. Oh, dearie, dearie me, yes sirree. I built myself a porch out over my front door to keep the wind and weather out, and what is more, I wanted to be so free from draught, you see, but then this planning officer he came and he said to me, this is a conservation area. Oh, dearie, dearie me. Now, as a patriot, I wanted my flag to fly. I put a great big pole up so I could fly it so high. I wanted to sit and watch it flutter happily, but then this planning officer, he came along and said to me, this is a conservation area. Oh, dearie me. Now I put myself a fence about 6 foot high to stop those newly parkers out, the ones that want to pry. All I wanted to have was a little privacy, but then this planning officer came and he said to me, this is a conservation area. Oh, dearie, dearie me. The policeman told me sash windows are taboo. They let the wind and rain in, and the burglars too. So there was I so happy behind my UPVC, but then this planning officer came and he said to me, this is a conservation area. Oh, dearie, dearie me, yes sirree. So I'm going to have to sell my house and move away from here, from this little place where they brew that Adams beer. So all I wanted to do was retire, in comfort you see. But this planning officer, he came along and he said to me, we have ways of making your life a misery, Heil Hitler. Do you like that?